Ready to go. And here we go. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Lots of interesting things to discuss and poke fun at today on the show. And joining me to do that, see, I'm leading the witness again. Joining me to do that is Mr. Juan Pons from our very popular Alpha Mirrorless podcast, and Joseph Linaski from our also very popular TWiP apps show and PhotoJoseph.com. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. You know, we were sitting in the green room before I started recording, and I just realized that you guys haven't met each other. This is your first time. You're on the same network. How can you not? And you're both photographers. How can you not know each other?
Big world.
Well, because you hadn't introduced us. That's why. We are waiting for you to the honors.
Oh yeah, I'm the matchmaker. Yeah, I'm cute. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Juan, what have you been up to, man? You've been teaching stuff, running around the world. Any big trips?
Not really. I typically take the summers off to spend with my son, so that's what I've been doing. We've been going out camping. We've been out. Actually, we just went whitewater rafting the other day. So, the summers are just to chill out. Take it easy, because the rest of the year I'm going like gangbusters. I'm about to leave with our friend Rick Salmon on a workshop in a couple of weeks, and from there it's nonstop until I think June of next year. So, the summers are well-deserved rest.
Wow,
very nice. Where's that workshop?
That's good. That's good. We'll keep it going.
The one I'm doing with Rick is in Yellowstone and Grand Tetons.
And I'm getting a little
cool. Yeah, Frederick's falling apart, and he's gone. Juan, the show's up to you and me, buddy.
The show's up to you and I.
That is. So tell me more about this Grand Teton trip. That sounds incredible.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing workshops in Yellowstone and Grand Tetons for over about 14 years or so. So it's one of my favorite places in the world to do it, and I'll do those usually by myself, but this time I'm gonna be I'm teaming up with my friend Rick Salmon, and we're doing both combined Yellowstone and Grand Tetons in the fall, which is always a lot of fun.
That's great. Rick's such a cool guy. That'll be fun. Yeah, hey, look at that. Frederick's back.
I'm back.
Oh, good.
We took care of the show without you. No worries.
Well, good. Well,
and it's a wrap. We just finished up while you were gone. It's all set.
All right. Well, next week on This Week in Photo, we're gonna. It's probably my bandwidth. It's gonna be that kind of show. It's Monday. It's gonna be. It's
Monday.
Show.
You're right.
Don't we always record on Mondays?
I know, and I don't know why I picked Monday to record a show. I think we should do it every Friday the 13th. Yeah, every Friday the 13th we do it. So, Joseph, I don't know if you were saying, but what have you been up to?
Well, no, I wasn't saying. We were talking about the workshop that Juan's going to be doing. No, I've been busy shooting. Been doing a bit of traveling. I mean, it's been forever since I've been on this show. So I just got back from a shoot with Panasonic in San Francisco, shooting another marketing piece for something new that'll be coming out soon. And if you were following my social media feed, my new assistant Ellen was doing a lot of behind-the-scenes posting, which was super cool. So we usually don't have that much behind-the-scenes action going on. It was really great to have that happen. But we were down there shooting. I was directing and DPing, and we had a whole crew on hand to do the things that we do.
So this new thing that you were shooting for Panasonic that you can't talk about, what exactly is that again?
Exactly. Shortly before that,
I was wondering if he was going to fall for that.
Yeah,
I was just trying my Jedi mind trick,
That's why these companies hire me, because they know that I'm just a big old blabbermouth.
Yeah.
Before that, so we haven't talked in a while, but I did the workshop with John Stanmeyer, where I went as a student in Tbilisi, Georgia, and that was incredible. That was in I guess it was July. Yeah, that was July. That was an incredible experience. And John is such a phenomenal photographer and storyteller, and spending a week with him and the other students there, learning from each other and learning from him, was really quite the experience. It was nice to be able to go out and be on the other side of the teaching wall, as it were, and experience that. It was really fun.
Yeah, I think we should all do that from time to time. Just go and be a student at these workshops and
absolutely
and absorb. You get a little numb when you're teaching them all the time and you're always instructing. Feels good to go sit in one of the chairs and listen and follow and learn stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And I'll plug his workshop. He's got another one coming up in Bali. If you've got the means, it's in November. It is going to be out of this world, I'm sure. I would go if I wasn't so dang busy. But yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Cool. Well, all right, guys, let's dive into the show. Story number one is about Canon. So Canon is reportedly, according to Creative Live blog, is reportedly bringing to the 5D Mark IV dual pixel RAW. So dual pixel RAW. And I'm happy to be doing this show because I want to know what that means, Juan Pons. I know, and you are a former Canon shooter. You may still be a Canon shooter. I don't know. But
no, not really. But yeah, I mean, I used the Canon 5D Mark III and the 5D Mark II. I love the Canon 5D Mark III. Got tired of waiting for Canon to actually come up with something. That Canon 5D Mark III, I mean, it's been over 4 years now since that camera came out, and the 5D Mark IV is not even out yet. And I had not heard about this dual pixel thing, so I had to look it up and read about it a little bit. It's kind of interesting in at least what these blogs are claiming. And by the way, I kind of traced the source of this rumor to a Japanese website. So this is a translation from Japanese to English. So who knows how accurate the description is, but it looks like kind of bringing like Litro type things into the Canon world, where you can do some post-processing micro focus adjustments. So for example, you may be able to adjust the focus between the nose to the eye or whatnot within a particular scene, or you may be able to adjust the bokeh of the image after it's been taken. Well, I mean, this will be great. I think it's kind of neat. But you know what? I prefer to have better image quality first, and that's the one thing where I think Canon is sort of falling behind. And one of the reasons I actually switched to the Sony system is because, I used Canon for the longest time because of the image quality, and then all of a sudden we're now having these, Canon hasn't done as much in developing the image quality as companies like Sony, and that's why I jumped ship. So I would have preferred to see Canon spend more time on their image quality and maybe less on these sort of
gimmicky stuff.
Gimmicky stuff. I mean, it's hard to call it gimmicky because I think it's kind of cool, and you know me, I'm kind of a curmudgeon from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, but I want to see what the image quality is like. To me, as we did with the first episode of the Alpha Mirrorless podcast, it's all about the image quality, right?
It is. It's all about. So Joseph, is this a gimmick, or is this Canon throwing down the gauntlet and saying, you know what, we're holding on to this mirror, and we're also gonna give you this dual pixel technology that's gonna give you all this amazing thing, so you won't even notice the mirror is still here. Is it smoke and mirrors?
Oh!
I'm here all week, people. I'm here all week.
I don't know. I haven't. I didn't know anything about this. Never heard of this before the show notes came up. So it's completely news to me. And I think it's worth pointing out this is basically speculation and rumor of the largest form at this point. So this may be completely made up technology. The ability to correct focus later obviously has its advantage. No matter how good of a shooter you are, there are times where you miss focus, and if you missed focus on a critical shot, to be able to dial that in, even if it's just moving it a centimeter forward or backward to get that exact spot, that certainly has value. But what's the sacrifice? You don't gain anything like that without sacrificing something. So do you shoot at 1 frame per second to acquire this? Does your 64 gig memory card fill up after 6 shots? What's the trade-off of this? And until we know, it's hard to know whether it's a gimmick or a great feature. It certainly sounds interesting. Obviously, again, there's certainly would be times where it would be handy, but I don't know. Until you get to all the specs, it's really too hard to say.
Yeah, looking at some of these, like you said, just we'll put brackets around this whole conversation. That it's rumor, speculation, and innuendo, right? So who knows what's real and what's not real? But looking at these specs, the raw file size from this alleged 5D Mark IV DSLR, 36.8 megabytes. The raw file size. DP raw, 66.9 megabytes for that file. MRAW 27.7, SRAW 18.9 megabyte file. So for that 66.9, let's just call it 67. For that 67 megabyte file, its dimensions would be 6270 by 4480.
So it's 28 megapixels thereabout, almost 29 megapixels.
28. Yeah. For both of you guys, let's just make the assumption that this is true. If this is a true These are some of the specs of this new 5D Mark IV. Would this, Joseph, would this pry you away from Lumix? And Juan, would this pry you away from Sony and woo you back into the DSLR world? Joseph, you go first.
No, I'm pretty good at focusing. I can... Or let me put it this way: my Lumix cameras always nail focus. I don't need to fix it later.
Oh,
ouch,
boom.
ouch, ouch.
Look at that. This is for people that can't focus and need to fix it in post. Well, then I take it you don't shoot RAW either then, Joseph, do you?
Oh.
I would never shoot RAW.
These are fighting words, man.
No, I think obviously there are times where you can't control it. Sports would be a critical, great position for that, to be able to adjust the focus. You've got a bunch of athletes on the field, you're shooting, they're moving fast. The best camera in the world can't track every single person on the field perfectly.
Right.
If you get that killer shot, but the ball's in the right spot, it's like, oh my God, everything on this shot is so perfect, but the key player is just a little bit out of focus. Obviously, that'd be incredible to be able to refocus that.
Yeah, but those issues are, like you said, those are niche for the most part,
Sure.
right? So there's a small group of people that, yes, this feature is what I've been waiting for. It's going to change the way that I shoot. I love it. Thank you. And they're going to buy their money, spend their money to buy it. Juan Pons, are you gonna ditch your Sony Alpha, and are we going to have to change the name of the show now to something else?
Canon Mirrorful? No. Mirrorful.
Smoke and mirrors, man. Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors. No, well, again, for me, image quality is paramount, but there's a lot of other things that the mirrorless give you besides the image quality, too. The things that, I've gotten so used to nowadays that I can't imagine going back to these bulky, mirror-full cameras, as we were just talking about. Recently, I held in my hand a 7D Mark II, and I held that thing, I'm like, oh my God, this thing's a monster. How bulky and big it is, it almost felt kludgy. Whereas, I guess I'm just used. It obviously is what you get used to. With the smaller cameras, I feel a lot more adept. I feel like these cameras are much more lightweight.
Yeah.
Everything is. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It just feels like a better system for me. And this is after a short while. Remember, I shot Canon for 15 years. And I've only been shooting Sony now for a little over a year. So,
wow.
Again, what to me the proof in the pudding is the image quality. Let's look at the image quality, and then let's consider all the other factors that are in there, whether it's these gimmicks or these additional options. One thing that I do give props to Canon and Nikon from that perspective that we're not seeing in the Sony, because the Sony system's definitely not perfect. No matter what I say on the podcast, on the Alpha Realist podcast, is not perfect, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
The fact that
I got two words for you on that. 2 words. Operating system.
Well, that is one. The menu system. Yeah, just about every show we complain about it. So,
yeah.
But I actually just heard a rumor recently that there may be an updated system. So we'll see. But they do give you options here in file sizes. That's one of the big pet peeves that I have with the Sony system is that I can only shoot at 43 megapixels when I'm shooting with the 7D or with the A7R too. So, for example, when I'm shooting time lapses, I don't need 43 megapixel files to shoot a time lapse.
Yeah.
So I wish I could choose smaller raw file sizes like you can with the Canons and the Sony. So.
Yeah, but hey, who knows?
Sorry, Canon and Nikons.
I mean, the A7. How old is that series now? What, like 2 years? Right, barely 2 years old.
2 years old, but there's 2 versions of that camera already.
Right. I mean, it launched with 2 versions. So
right.
It launched with the
No,
A7.
no, we're in second generation. There's 3 versions of the camera in second generation.
Right.
There's Mark II in 2 years versus it's taken Canon over 4 years to upgrade the 5D camera.
To what we're talking about today.
Right.
Hypothetically.
4 years, man. 4 years. Over 4 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an eternity in technology.
That's eternity in anything, right? That's enough time for your kid to be born, for you to make the kid, for it to be born, and for to be like building stuff in the backyard. I mean,
you're right. I mean, he would be walking and running and tearing things apart in your house by now.
Yeah, and you can't make a different camera body. So I don't know. All right. Well, so I think this is a short story. I think this is hypothetical. If it is true, it might be too little for at least for the people that have already made the jump over. But some of the I don't want to throw gasoline on this innuendo fire, but some of the features that they're talking about is built-in Wi-Fi and GPS, 4K, larger sensor, which means better low light performance and all that stuff. So, and then that dual pixel thing, which would allow photographers to adjust the focus to some degree in post. So, none of those things makes me interested in switching. None of those is like, oh crap, okay, I got to drop everything I have. I'm leaving and I'm gonna go jump into this Canon camera. However, for people that are already in the Canon camp and like you said, their 5D Mark III is long in the tooth and it's they got duct tape on it keeping it together. This makes sense, right?
Well, it almost allows them to catch up to us, almost.
Yeah, but does it? That's a good question. So I was just about to leave this, but that's a good question. So if Canon is putting this body out to satisfy the people that are like, hey, dude, come on, I need to upgrade my camera. It's been too long. It's falling apart. And if you don't upgrade this camera, I'm going over to Sony, Panasonic, Fuji, Olympus, whoever.
Right.
Are these features enough to woo them to stay with the Canon brand, or are those 5D users prime candidates for a move over to some other camera system? What do you think, Juan?
Well, I really think that Canon and Nikon are really resting on their laurels, or resting on their past successes, and they're not making enough. They're not putting enough innovation out there to keep people like ourselves that are trying to push the envelope. Yes, the people who are really vested into the system, they don't want to change. That they're used to Canon. Those people are going to stay there until they pry those mirrorful cameras out of their dead cold hands, right? But I honestly, I don't think it's enough for people who are looking for new things. Yes, I'm glad that they have built-in GPS now. That's kind of nice. They're just entering now the 4K space. Come on, I mean, these guys, these are the guys that came up with a 5D Mark II, the camera that revolutionized, high definition video shooting, right?
Yeah.
And now they're falling behind on this stuff. Whereas all these other camera manufacturers are coming up with cameras that have 4K, 8K, or whatnot.
Yeah, Canon and Vincent LaFerrari basically pioneered the idea that you can shoot high quality video and have the background be out of focus.
Well, for a reasonable amount of money.
For a reasonable, you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to throw the
hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Hundreds of thousands.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Bokeh is now in the reach of everyone.
That's right. That's shooting video, right?
Oh, I love it, Joseph. What about you? Do you think is this part of Canon's plan? I mean, it sounds obvious in retrospect, even as I say the words, but part of Canon's plans to keep those Mark III users in the family while they work on something else, maybe, or is this the Jack Nicholson? Is this as good as it gets?
These companies are always coming out with amazing new things, but I think to Juan's point, it's just taking them so long. It's kind of crazy the amount of time that Canon shooters have had to wait for something new, and go back a decade and we all waited. How long was the Nikon F4 around? And that had like a 10 to 15 year life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have some possibly ridiculous expectations of companies to come out with new tech on a regular basis. I mean, look at what we expect out of Apple. Every year we expect a new iPhone. We expect it to be the second coming, and when it isn't, people get really pissed off and upset about it. It's like, well, come on. We can't always have that unbelievable new feature. So if this is all true, if everything we're talking about today is true, then they're the first to do it. Then yeah, that's a pretty awesome feature. It's pretty fantastic, and it will definitely make a lot of people very happy, and I'm sure it will make some converts out of it. But again, until we know it for sure, it's all just speculation.
Yeah. All right, and on that note, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how VR technology is continuing to gain momentum in the marketplace as GoPro prepares to start selling their 6-camera Omni VR rig this month. I know Juan has some thoughts on this. All right, guys, we are back this month. As we record this, we are in the month of August, so maybe September. At some point within the next several days, GoPro is going to start selling their 6-camera Omni VR rig. If you guys remember, the listeners, we did a show a while back where we talked about this rig, and essentially what it is, it's like It's a cube, you know. It's a rig with a cube that you can put a GoPro camera into each of the 6 sides of the cube, so that you know you can capture all directions at once, and through software stitch them together, thereby creating a bubble, a VR bubble that then can be viewed, and yada 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 yada. So that's the basis of it. The next piece of it is August 17th is the release date. Oh, it's already out. So
yeah, it already just came out. Yeah.
It's already out. We're past August 17th. It's August 22 as we record. So it's on the market now. Okay, so basically for $5,000 you can get this rig with all this stuff together. But if you just want, with all the cameras in there, if you want just the rig, which is essentially some plastic, it's going to cost you $1,500, and I'm assuming that it's plastic. It may be metal or something. I don't know, but it is a cage that holds a bunch of cameras, a bunch of little GoPro cameras, and points them with precision in 6 directions. For $1,500, you can have that. For $5,000, you get that and the rig. Joseph, you got all kinds of cameras over there. You shoot all kinds of content. You know your way around VR, R, and all the others.
There will be no R.
F, P, M.
R is overrated. R is
well,
it's rated.
Okay, so $5,000 sounds like a lot of money.
Yes,
and it is a lot of money if you consider that it's a bunch of GoPros in a plastic cage that looks like something you could print on your 3D printer at home. But it's also about 10% of the price of the Nokia Ozo, which is also a 360-degree camera.
Yes.
$45,000 camera. So
yeah, but these prices are. I'm sorry, I got to call foul on that. Just because that's like me entering the market, and I made something in my house here, and I said, you know what, this little thing I just got on Amazon. It's a headphone holder for my desk. I'm like, I'm gonna price this thing at $2,200. And then I'm gonna make one that only holds one headphone, and that's gonna be a bargain at $1,100.
But if the competition is selling at 10 times the price, then it is. Yeah. I mean, that's the market.
That doesn't make it worth it, though. I mean, does that make it
okay? Well, the market is who's going to buy it, not who's going to make it, right? If there's somebody that's willing to pay the money, then there's a market.
Who would buy this?
There's people that are willing to pay $45,000 for the Nokia Ozo. So if that's the case, then there's definitely people that'll spend $5,000 on this. No question.
I know someone that has multiple Ozos, by the way.
Yeah, we know who you're talking about.
Alex Lindsay, I'm calling you out. Insanity. I don't know. I mean, VR is important, but for me, I think right now I need something that's maybe twice as good as my my Theta S, my Ricoh Theta S. The Ricoh Theta S is great, for stills, and video looks like one step above partially digested mashed potatoes, but beyond that, it is good, and it's a good proof of concept. I need something slightly better than that. Like, if that's my point and shoot camera, I need something that's my mirrorless camera. I need something that's got decent quality. I don't need all the headache. I'm looking at the rig now.
Oh my god.
And I can't. Part of the allure of the Theta S is that you get a file out of there, you run it through some software, and you upload it, or you do some editing on it and you upload it. This thing seems like a whole heck of a lot of overhead in terms of post-production, storage, things to go wrong, charging 6 cameras, making sure 6 cameras have properly formatted memory cards in them. Nothing gets corrupted. Did you start all the cameras simultaneously? All this. It seems
the user interface on the GoPros is horrid. I mean, even the newer ones. I'm with you. I'm with you, Frederick. I think this would be a nightmare to use.
Yeah. It would. And again, I haven't played with this yet. I want to play with it, but I'm looking at it and I'm getting shivers, and I'm feeling like, especially if you're on a gig. Like, Joseph, you're on a paid gig. You have a client. And your client is like, yeah, we need these we need 24 360-degree videos by the end of next week, edited and ready to post online. Are you going to use this?
Well, if the budget isn't high enough to hire Alex to come along with his 3 Ozos and the trailer full of CPUs that are required to process those things.
I think they also come with a humanoid carbon-based life form to operate it. So.
That is not included. The battery's not included, friend. No, it's like you said. You need. It was your words. You said you need something that's about twice as good as what you have now.
Yes.
That's you, right?
Yes.
This is clearly not targeted for you. This
Right.
is targeted for somebody else who needs 360 and doesn't have the $45,000 per unit plus the trailer full of CPUs required and the manpower and man knowledge required to run something like the Ozo.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a massive, massive price cut from what we've seen. It may still seem ridiculous because it's not the kind of thing that we shop for, but it is, assuming it works, and it gives you the quality of an image that you'd expect out of it, which will be good, not phenomenal. It is GoPros after all. Then you know what? It's a bargain.
Why wouldn't GoPro? I mean, GoPro. We've talked about them on other shows and their woes in terms of the declining sales, because once you get one of these, it's not like you got to go buy one every year, right? You kind of get, it's a market that gets saturated quickly. But armchair quarterbacking, why wouldn't they just make a proper 360 camera? Like, looking at the Ozo and looking at the Theta and saying, okay, let's build something that's way better than the Theta, but not quite as, Optimus Prime as the Ozo, and we'll come right in the middle. We'll price it at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000, and we'll call it the GoPro 360 or something. Why not do that?
Probably why do it if you don't need to? If your hardware can do it with a little bit of modification. I mean, the Theta is 280-degree cameras back to back. The Ozo is, I think, 6. It might be more cameras. So it's very similar to this type of idea. It's a bunch of cameras and a bunch of microphones pointing in different directions. So that's more. That's what the Ozo is. It's more like this than it is like the Theta. The Theta's quality. I mean, it's like you said, it's half-digested mashed potatoes. It's pretty mushy. It's cool. No question, it's cool, but it's pretty mushy looking. You're not gonna. It's not pro quality by any stretch. It's a toy.
Yeah.
So this, the GoPro cameras, it's even shooting HD or shooting 4K. This is no big 4K camera. This is no Red camera. This is no Canon 4K. It's no Lumix 4K camera. But you know what? The image quality is pretty darn good, especially in daylight. So you take 6 of those, you stitch them together. It's probably gonna be a pretty darn good image.
Yeah, but that's the part where you lose me at right there. It's like, because you roll right over it. Yeah, you take 60 things, put them together, stitch them together.
Well, we don't know what software it's going to come with either. We don't know what it's got to make that easier or not.
But it's getting up to that software point. You still have 6 independent memory cards, 6 independent batteries, 6 chances at least for things to go wrong. That you have to get it right, or else you don't have a shot. It's not like, oh, one of them didn't work. We have 5 more. One of them doesn't work.
$45,000.
Yeah, one of them doesn't work. They're all gone. And then if you're doing a professional job with this, it's not like you can show up with one of these. You got to show up with 2. So you got to have redundancy, or else you're not a pro at that point, right?
So that's $10,000 spent instead of $90,000 spent.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but Frederick, I guess to be fair, because I'm with you, but I guess to be fair, we don't really understand how these work. It could be that these GoPros interface to the center part of this cube, and for all intents and purposes, they interface back to a computer as one device. We're not necessarily dealing with 6 individual devices. Looking at it, it does seem like it's 6 individual cameras that you got to turn on and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that would be crazy when you think about it. Like you said, 6 batteries to put in. You know how hard it is to take those little batteries in and out of the GoPro? They're a pain in the butt.
Yeah, you need tweezers and a loop and everything. Well, let me read this paragraph, and we're reading this from Digital Rev. Okay, with each rig, let's see. Okay, with this rig, each camera connects to a central brain, meaning you only need one remote to control them all. Okay, so we don't have to press 5 buttons. That's great. This will not only help with compositing footage together, but also in editing. Unfortunately, you still need to manually pop the 6 micro SD cards in and out of the rig for file transfers. But the importer tool syncs the footage together to save you a lot of time compiling. The Omni records 8K resolution, so the footage will be impressive, though good luck with editing 8K footage on anything other than a powerhouse PC. GoPro has included software tailored for virtual reality content, which includes plugins for Adobe Premiere Pro.
Now, so you're right. This is a ghetto rig, right? I mean, it's something cobbled together, and you still have to pay $5,000 for it. I don't understand it. What, a GoPro Black is what, $500 each?
Yeah.
Times 6, that's $3,000. Where's the other $2,000 going?
Well, it's $1,500 for the cage itself, if you just want that, if you already have the cameras.
But you'd think this would be cheaper as a bundle, than not the same price or more expensive than getting the individual parts.
The thing
Oh,
it
the
says
software.
some of the equipment and the software license. Software's money,
Yeah,
costs money too.
and still, I mean, the $5,000 at least to me gets getting so close to just being able to buy the individual pieces. It should be $3,000, not $5,000, right?
I mean, if you do a search on Google for 360-degree camera, or whatever, there's like, even in the past week, I've gotten, I think at least the past 2 weeks, I've gotten 2 Kickstarter or Indiegogo whatever requests about cameras that do, like, one looks like a triangle, one looks like a bubble. There's all these different 360-degree cameras coming out that do certain things. Even Nikon has their Key Mission 360 rumored, that has been rumored for over a year now, right?
When last time you bought something on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, how long did it take before you actually got it?
I'm still waiting.
Oh, yeah, still waiting, yeah.
There you go.
No, my Peak Design bag, I got that. So that was
true.
Yeah,
that is true. That did come out.
There's some things that come quickly, some things do not.
Yeah.
I bought a coffee maker 2 years ago. I'm still waiting for it.
But you know what you paid for? You paid for all those update emails they send you telling you how hard they're working on it.
Seriously, right?
No, Kickstarter. I don't want to poo-poo Kickstarter, but like this, something like this.
No, not at all. No, but I'm just saying you're talking about all these things that are showing up in Kickstarter. This thing could show up in your Amazon mailbox tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I got a question for both of you guys. So is VR video going the same way as 3D TVs?
I hope so.
VR video. I don't think so. I gotta disagree.
3D TVs. I mean, do you hear about this anymore? For a while, you couldn't get away from hearing them.
I have a 3D TV in my bedroom. Just so you know. However, I was going through some boxes.
I'm gonna refrain. I'm gonna refrain, but go ahead.
Whatever. Hey, I'm a grown man. Anyway, I was going through some boxes the other day, and I found the glasses.
Oh my god.
That's how much I use it. I think I used the 3D feature of that TV once when I got it. I'm like, oh, let's check this out. Yeah, one time. Yeah, no, but but 360. I think 360. Let's use the right terminology here. So VR is virtual reality. That's you got VR, which is virtual reality, which I think is 3D generated environments that you put your helmet on, you get in, you feel like you're there. This is 360-degree video, which creates a bubble, or 360-degree photo or video, which creates a bubble around the viewer that you can relive the scene in. It's not like you can interact with it. And then there's augmented VR, which looks at the reality of the world and then places things in real time on there. So that's the difference. But I think 360-degree video has legs. I think, and stills. I think what these kinds of technologies I think is missing is just the storytelling piece. We don't have everything we see with these is generally a concept. It's hey, look at this new technology and what I can do with it. We never see anything that the technology is secondary to the story. It's always, here's some technology, let me show you how cool it works by doing A, B, and C with it. Right. It's never like, there's a new way to tell a story in 360. I'm going to use this particular tool to tell that story. I think that's where it's kind of hiccuped right now.
Well, I think these companies come out with incredible technology, and it's up to us, the end users, to figure out how to use it. And sure, they may be able to make some suggestions, but they're never going to figure everything out until you get it out to the mass users, and they can start doing incredible things with it, and they do things that you never even thought that people would do with it. That's when it gets interesting. And 360 video or VR or AR, all these things are still quite young. I mean, 360 video has been around for a while. It's not necessarily new, but the ability to tell a story through that, like you're saying, it has its home. It certainly has its places. I wouldn't want to go to see the next Lord of the Rings movie in 360 VR. That's too much. I don't want to have to be spinning around trying to figure out where to look.
Right.
But for something like education, if you're going to take a tour walk through the land of the dinosaurs and be able to turn around and see all this stuff happening around you, that's really cool. That's a very interesting, immersive way to educate. So I think education is a huge place for this, but I haven't seen much happening there, but it would be an amazing place for it to get really.
You hit it right on the head. Like imagine physicians learning about some procedure, and they're doing a tour inside a virtual human body, and they're looking around virtually like, oh, what's that? And being able to interact with things in there. That would be crazy to be able to
Okay,
do.
I'm gonna place a little devil's advocate here. Now we have Hollywood, who spent billions of dollars, right, on trying to develop the 3D technology, and the 3D TV is still not taken off.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are talking about the educational market, and maybe I don't know, medical market, trying to make this a reality. That they don't even have a fraction of the resources or money that Hollywood spends on this stuff.
Yeah, but Hollywood
You
with
buy
their
it.
3D stuff, you're stuck in the theater or in your living room, and it's a one-way experience. It's not interactive. This stuff, with this 3D 360-degree video or whatever, you can consume it on presumably any screen you have, from your living room to your phone to your tablet to your computer. It could be wherever it makes sense to do it. It's not like, and you don't need anything else to look at it with the 360 or with the VR stuff or the 3D TV stuff. Its limiting factor was you had to put those glasses on and you had to charge them up to make sure they work, and then there was only like a thumbnail's worth of content out there for you to look at, and most of that looked like crap anyway. So
and you had to find the box that the glasses were in too, right?
Exactly. And then you look like an idiot sitting there trying to watch TV. So this with 360, it's just come as you are. It just it's just there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still skeptical. I think it's a nice gimmick. I think people get tired of it pretty quickly. You play with it for a while. People like to be guided when they're being told a story, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have to start looking around, like Joseph just said, I wouldn't want to watch Lord of the Rings on this thing.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know what to look for. What I'm looking at. People like to be guided in a story, and that's, I think, the part that is missing. And I know that there are hints that can be played in the 360 video to kind of guide the user to certain parts of the video. I don't know. I think it's still too much for most people. I think people just like to be immersed in the story and forget the peripheral stuff. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. I don't think there's any right question, and the only way that we'll see how and if people adopt this is to put it out there and make it easy to consume. One of the Achilles heel of 360 video right now is it needs to be played in the browser, right? Which is good and bad. But the bad part is, like, if you want to create a 360 video with your Theta S and put it online, you have to jump through a couple of hoops. You can put it online, but then there's restrictions on where it can be seen and what only certain browsers can look at it. Like, there's 360-degree video on YouTube today that will play in the player, but only if you're in Firefox or Chrome. If you're a Safari user or you're on mobile on one of those browsers, you're just going to see distorted video, which is, that's just a sign of early technology.
But also, how much fun is it to look at 360 video on a static screen in front of you and have to use your mouse to pan through it?
Right.
You pick up your iPhone, and even if you're not wearing goggles, just pick up your phone and hold it in front of you on YouTube, which you can do today, and it's playing video, and as you move that camera up and down and left and right, it follows the video. That is cool. Again, it's a gimmick. It's not the kind of thing you're going to watch any feature-length film doing, but it is cool, and it does work. And that's a way better experience than the desktop.
You got to play with it, Juan, because I had, I think, a watershed kind of epiphany moment when I got back there. I have Google Glass. They're not Google Glass, the Google Cardboard sitting back there, the opposite of Google Glass.
Yeah, I was good. Google Glass? You bringing that back?
It's the opposite.
Are we in the 1980s again?
Actually, the Cardboard is probably worth about the same amount as Google Glass.
It is way cooler.
It's way cooler. Yeah. But I used the Theta S, and I created a 360-degree video in my living room. Standing in the middle of my living room, just took a shot, and I was just testing it, and then I uploaded it privately to YouTube. I put those on, the Google Cardboard on, and I was sitting just looking around, and
in your living room.
In my living room, and I would stand. It was weird. This is the weirdest thing. I was standing about 3 feet away from where I took the photo while I was looking around, and it was disorienting because I really felt like I was in my living room, but I wasn't in the spot where I was looking around in. It was like Twilight Zone, and like I was thinking, like, those kinds of things I think are really cool that you can do that. And then I was thinking in preparation for this show, like, in the future, and I've said things like this on the show before, in the future, wouldn't it be cool if this VR telepresence type technology became integral to our society where what is that, Joseph? Where,
Sorry.
are you speaking in tongues over there?
Continue. I'll unplug this. My bad. I was pulling something up to talk about it. I didn't realize it would start playing.
I thought you were speaking in tongues. I didn't know you had that power. But I was thinking, like, if you had a dedicated room with a secure, bulletproof connection to your physician, where your physician could give you remote therapy, and you could be wherever you are, you get therapy or consultations, and you could literally sit in the room with the doctor, and the doctor's looking at you, and your vitals are hovering above your head, and your chart is right there, and you can explain how you're feeling, and all that stuff. Why do you need to, unless they need to touch you for some reason, why do you need to physically go into the office or go to a job interview or whatever, there's a list of things that could happen with you sitting in your nice secure room and a doctor somewhere in France or wherever where you're having a conversation with, and it's just like you're in the same spot. That's where I think this stuff comes into play, not just entertainment. I think there's, not just entertainment and education, but also these kind of practical uses where you don't want to be in the same spot where the other person is.
And I think you're right. I think that the scenarios that we can't think of right now, the ones that we typically would come up, are probably the best hope for this technology.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think the need that we haven't even perceived yet. I wish we still had Steve Jobs, because he would tell us where he was good at finding out what we needed before we thought we knew we needed.
Yeah, and then selling it to us. Yep, absolutely.
Right, and selling it to us. Right.
Absolutely. I know. I can't tell you how much I miss that man. All right, guys, let's move on to this next story. Story number 3 is about VSCO, or VSCO. You guys know that app.
Yeah, I've never heard it pronounced, so that's good.
Yeah,
and now I know it's pronounced VSCO.
I know, don't hold me to it. I just heard other people say it. It may be, a game of telephone. But VSCO, or VSCO, has opened a free-to-use studio in New York. It's called Open Studio. It's a massive studio space in the city, and it's located in New York City's Nomad district, which I would assume north of Madison Avenue district. And basically, they're making the space available. It's got a psych in there. It's got infinity background photos, all kinds of stuff in there for people to go in and use. Joseph Linaschke, you've rented studios before. You own a studio. Mm-hmm. Is this a good move? Is this fun, or is this a gimmick?
It's way fun. It's cooler than my studio, I'll tell you that much.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's straight out of Johnny Ive's dreams. It's all white.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, photographers always need more space than they have. There's always a reason to get something bigger and better than what's available, or you just don't have the budget or the regular need for a studio, so to be able to rent one is always useful. There's always been a market for this. And to have one this size, and this thing is absolutely huge, it's fantastic. It's the fact that it comes from VSCO doesn't necessarily make it any better or worse. It's just another studio for rent. But it's a beautiful space. Yeah, it really looks nice.
Yeah, I would use it. I love it. And I like I agree with you on that very Apple-esque design. It's like all white chairs, glass tabletops, everything. I bet even the food is white. It's crazy. and to be a photographer, of course, you have to go in there. You see the photos of the photographers at the bottom? You have to be wearing black shirts against the white, or else you're not cool, right? So.
Now, the thing about this is that it's free, right? I mean, so it's a big promotional thing for them. Ultimately, what are they getting out of it? I think most people already know about VSCO, so I don't know how much they're really going to get from it, but it's pretty sweet to be able to offer this thing up. Of course, that also means that you'll have to book it 2 years in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Juan. You're more of a landscape shooter, right? So does this excite you at all?
I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I'm more, like you said, more a wildlife outdoor photographer, but I think it's kind of neat. I think that when you and I are in New York in October, we should head on over and book it and try to do something cool in there.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Look at that.
Right, you and I are going to be together at the Out of New York conference, and maybe we should bring a bunch of people over there and just have a fun time. I don't know, doing something.
All right.
Good luck with that, guys. It says, due to the volume of applicants, we're no longer accepting requests.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, but Joseph, this is TWiP.
That's right. This is TWiP.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I think we should plan on something like that. Juan, that could be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of neat. I think it's cool that they're giving back to the community. I mean, these guys have, obviously have done really well with their apps on the mobile devices. So it's kind of cool to see that they're doing something to give back, as opposed to a lot of other companies that that don't.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, one of the other ones that I wanted to touch base on is one that I tried out a couple of weeks ago. Have you guys heard of this service called Breather?
I found out from you. That looks pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It is crazy. So the deal is I had to do a little product shoot in San Francisco and I was looking for a space to do it and I didn't really need a giant studio. Really, I just needed a conference room, someplace that was convenient to the client that I could go set up and just have the space for a good couple of hours. And I found this service called Breather. In fact, Lisa Laporte actually turned me on to these guys because they may be coming on TWiP as an advertiser soon. But she turned me on to these guys, so I'm like, you know what? Hey, let me go check them out. I need them. I need something like that, and they're in San Francisco. So I went in there. I found a space. They have like the gorgeous shots of the space in there. You do a little search, tell them when you need it, how many people you're gonna have, and they give you a bid, or not a bid, but they give you the price on what it's gonna cost. And I think the price is essentially just based on the time of day that you're booking it for and obviously how many hours. But you get there, you download their Breather app before you get there. Once you've booked it, it tells you have an upcoming booking. It tells you that, okay, your booking is going to go active in a certain amount of time. When it goes active, it gives you a code that you can use to unlock the door. you know, and then when it's time for say you booked it for 3 hours, at the 2 hour and 45-minute mark, you'll get an alert on your phone that says, hey, your time's almost up. Do you want to extend? You say yes. If you want to extend, it will bill you for another hour or whatever you ask for. When you're done, you say, yeah, I'm done. You check out. It's all done. You charged, and it's cheap. The price was ridiculously cheap. It was like, I think I paid, just over $100 for a couple of hours in this place, and I had several clients in there. I brought, a ton of photo gear. We did the shoot. It was in and out, and it was like it was my space. It was my space for that amount of time, and I felt like a hero. So, yeah, I think these kind of services, this service with Breather, the VSCO, Open Studio, these are in a lot of ways, I think, kind of a direction where things are going, kind of like the Uber of photography. Instead of owning a car with Uber or owning a studio space like Joseph Linaschke, when you need a space, you just dial up and say, hey, I need a space to do X, Y, Z, and you show up. Obviously, there's pluses and minuses to not owning, but if you can't, this seems ideal. What do you think, Juan?
Well, this is great. I'm looking at sites around the Boston area, and there's some incredibly beautiful sites that would be really useful to meet, like you said, meet clients or even hang out if you're trying to get a group of folks together or whatnot. I used to live in Boston for many years, so I have lots of friends in the Boston area, and they're very reasonable locations and beautiful locations as well. So this looks really, really cool.
Yeah, and I was thinking of doing a TWiP, like a mini meetup group, or maybe even just a regular meetup group, but definitely a small mastermind style meetup group, maybe once a month, where you have like half a dozen people, come hang out and go meet, talk photography, do some demonstrations, and then go to dinner after that and drinks or whatever. Like one of these would be ideal to do something like that in. I think it's,
well, yeah, I mean that's this. As someone who goes out to a lot of places around the country and around the world teaching photography, sometimes it's challenging, believe it or not, trying to find a location to hold a meeting. Because again, I'm an outdoor wildlife and nature and landscape photographer. Sometimes we want to go back and meet up at a meeting place to actually hold some classroom sessions. And in the past, it's been actually really difficult in certain locations to find a meeting place that is conducive to getting a few people together with computers and hold a classroom-type session. So I'm going to be bookmarking this site and using it in the future. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Joseph, would you use something like this? I mean, like if you want to do a workshop or something when you're on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Or you're just shooting for a client in a remote city, not at home, and you need a studio. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Or you just need some place to meet. If you just want to meet with.
I was going through the find workspaces in, and then it asks you what do you need to do, and there's even private workspace. Like I need somewhere to go work. My hotel isn't good enough. maybe the Wi-Fi sucks, or just the hotel is not comfortable. I want somewhere where I can go get some work done for a day. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I like the way where the stuff is going. Like I said, it reminds me of like Airbnb for meeting spaces and shoots and whatever. Airbnb for business or something. I don't know. It's cool. I'm a fan.
It's cool. Very cool.
Fan. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna take a question from one of our listeners. All right, from time to time on This Week in Photo, we take a question from one of our listeners and respond to that, or to feedback that has come in. We have a question this week from TWiP Army member Stuart Steffen, and Stuart Steffen says, basically he has a long question in here, which we'll put in the show notes, but the gist of it is, he says, how do you shoot fast-moving aircraft against a bright sky when the sun is sometimes in the frame? He's talking about like shooting at an air show or something. Juan, you in the back. What do you think?
Well, I mean, this is the same situation that I run into all the time when I'm shooting birds against the sky, right? It's exactly the same situation. And there's a trick that we all use as bird photographers, wildlife photographers, and that is to actually, because you're tracking the bird, in this case the plane, against that bright sky, and the brightness of the sky may actually change a little bit as the closer you get to the sun, or if you have clouds or whatnot. Typically I would shoot that at aperture priority, and believe it or not, I would then do exposure compensation about 2 stops plus. Because what's going to happen is, if you look at your meter is going to be looking at your composition, and the sky is going to be typically the majority of the of what's in your frame. So the camera's going to try to expose for that sky, and if it tries to expose to the sky, guess what's going to happen to the bottom of the plane, to the bottom of the bird? Yeah. It's going to go dark. By going +2, what it's doing is giving you enough light then to be able to make out the bottom of that plane or the bottom of that bird. Because again, the sun is above the bird or above the plane, so the top of the bird is going to be lit, the bottom is going to be in the shadow. By giving it a +2 exposure compensation, you'll be able to actually bring out some of that detail on the bottom of that plane or the bottom of that bird.
And since you're shooting, you said shooting in aperture priority, which means the camera's going to pick your shutter speed.
Right.
And since you're shooting such a bright subject, it's going to pick a fast shutter speed anyway.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I do. I will put it like a f5.6 so that the camera will give me the fastest shutter speed it can under those conditions, because you're going to be shooting against the sky anyways. Maybe bump it up to ISO 400, at least, and then do a +2 exposure compensation. You'll get really nice exposure on the bottom of those planes or the bottom of those birds.
I love it. Aperture priority +2, dial in +2. That's it.
That's it. It's as easy as that. That's what I teach when I do bird photography workshops, when we're shooting birds against the sky.
Done. Joseph, you have anything to add to that?
I will add one thing, because he's talking about sometimes having a hard time finding the plane when you're zoomed in all the way. His equipment, he's got a 300 millimeter lens on a crop factor lens, so it's get up to 450 mil. And if you are shooting looking through the lens with one eye and the other eye closed, it can be very, very hard to find what you're trying to shoot, especially if it's a little plane in the sky that is moving at 500 miles an hour, whatever the heck these things are flying at. You got to learn to shoot with both eyes open. And you put one eye up to the viewfinder, so that'd be your right eye up to the viewfinder, you're looking through there and you're seeing the zoomed in image, and then keep your left eye open so that you can see the whole sky with your massively wide vision of the human eye. And with those things together, it takes a little getting used to, but those things together, you can much more quickly find the target, find that plane that you want to shoot at, and just get right on it and follow it and track it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's great advice for people like me. I'm actually, believe it or not, even though I'm right-handed, I'm left eye dominant, so I shoot with my left eye. I cannot keep my eye open while I'm shooting. It's kind of weird. Yeah, so sometimes it's difficult in those kind of situations. So I agree with you. If he has a zoom, typically what I would do in those situations is actually zoom out so that you're shooting at wide angle, so it's easy to find. And when you find the bird that you're trying to photograph, then zoom back in to bring it into focus.
Sure.
So for some of us, for example, like I said, it's weird. I don't know why I'm that way, but I'm left eye dominant, so I always look through my left eye.
Yeah,
What
moving
about
across
shooting
the
with the
sky fast though.
LCD? Does it make sense to shoot with the LCD in this circumstance, or would you always want to use the V
No,
camera?
that would be hard. I think that would be harder to do
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
you could be holding it out, at a distance from you.
With a 300
It'd be
mil
hard.
lens on there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That would be something.
Yeah.
Even if it's a gimbal, on a big tripod and a gimbal head like a Wimberley or something, it would still be difficult to shoot using the back screen. So
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. Good
Learn to shoot with
tips.
both eyes open.
Shoot with both
yeah,
eyes
that
open.
that would
Shoot
be great if you can do that.
priority.
That would definitely be advantageous. Yeah.
Yeah. Both eyes open, aperture priority, dial in +2 roughly, and rock and roll, right?
Yeah. Let it rip.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And learn to focus really well, right? So what about focusing on something like that? Do you focus to infinity, or like what do you do?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you can, but that's not necessarily advisable to do because as those planes or birds are moving towards you pretty quickly, you're going to have to readjust. And this is where the back button focus comes into play. If you ever heard of back button focus,
Hmm.
super important when you have lots of action going on, being able to feather that focus by pressing the button on and off, depending on
Tell us
where
what
that
that is, because
subject is.
some people are like, okay, what's back button focus?
Well, back button focus is basically moving. You know how most cameras are set up by default to focus, to enable the autofocus system when you press the shutter halfway, right?
Hmm.
Back button focus is basically disabling that function in your camera so that the shutter button does not engage the autofocus, but that you engage autofocus deliberately by pressing a button on the back of the camera. And you typically control that with a thumb. So now you can control the autofocus independently of your exposure or your shutter actuation going on. So that you can much more precisely are able to control your autofocus. So for example, when you're following a bird or a plane that's moving across the sky, sometimes as you're tracking it, you may not be able to get those center sensors on your camera to fall on the subject. And if your autofocus is on and the camera loses track of the subject, you know what happens, right? That focus racks all the way to infinity and then all the way back, and you lost your shot completely.
Yeah.
By being able to feather, if you will, and control that button on the back to engage the focus only when you know those sensors are on your subject, you can more accurately engage the autofocus and help the autofocus help you in a way.
Yeah. No, I like that. I'm still trying to train myself. I mean, after decades
It's
of
hard.
using half press, it's training myself to use the back button because it's so much smarter. You're right. It's so much smarter. When you're shooting people like models or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're moving, but they're generally in one range of motion or depth of field there. So if you focus on them, then you can instead of every time I press the shutter button, it's going to try to focus. Then I take the photo.
And you recompose and
You recompose and
exactly.
all that, and
You don't have to do that.
yeah, you just you get the focus, and you're happy, and now you start shooting, right?
And you start shooting, and you can move the camera to left or right. You can recompose. You can compose, without having to worry about where those sensors are, whether the camera's going to pick the wrong subject to focus on or whatnot. It's definitely a lot easier to do, but I always recommend that people don't do this on a very important shoot. This is not the time to learn. When you go on a once-in-a-lifetime trip or you have an important shoot, that's not the time to learn. What I recommend people do is, believe it or not, go to like McDonald's parking lot where you have a bunch of seagulls flying around and practice on those.
Assuming you live in a coastal area.
Right.
Otherwise-
Well, you can find those even in inland, but just
yeah, those would be confused seagulls, Juan.
be very confused, but they do occur.
You're like, where's the ocean? I knew it was right.
But see, practice at home. Practice in a safe location. Don't do this in an important shoot. That's not the time to learn because it does take a while to, like you said, Frederick, to retrain your brain.
Yeah.
To use that back button versus using the shutter. And now I'm in the opposite situation. If I grab your camera and this on the shutter, I can't make an image. Everything will be out of focus. Well messed up.
Mine's on the back button focus right now, but when I first started experimenting, I had a conversation with someone that was, explaining it much like you did, and after that I'm like, of course, that makes so much sense. So I switched my camera to back button focus, but I didn't switch I had two cameras at the time. I didn't switch the other camera, and I put the back button focus camera in my camera bag, and for some reason I was using the other camera as my primary, and you can imagine what happened. So I had one camera with half press and another camera with
Oh
back
my
focus.
God.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm in a stressful model situation where I'm like the photographer. I'm like, what is wrong with my camera? Why is it not focused?
Yes.
But the fix, it was an easy fix. I just put it on manual focus until I figured out what was going on.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, don't do this in an important shoot like that. That's not the time to learn. Just
No.
practice, practice, and practice. In a safe situation, and then go on and field it. But you'll be surprised. I mean, you'll be amazed once you learn how to do this and you do it well. You'll be like, wow, why did I do the other thing for the longest time?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like that about a lot of things in my life. Joseph, what about what about you, man? Are you half press or back focus?
I'm doing just something different. So I was going to throw out another option here, and one
cool.
I'm curious to know if this is on the Sony cameras because I'm not. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
at all. I'm shooting Lumix. So you've got well, easy stuff. You've got face detection, autofocus, which
Yes.
I know those cameras have, and it's remarkably good. If you're shooting models, a single person at least, not groups of people, but a single person, you pretty much guaranteed it's going to focus on the face, and that's pretty awesome. But that's not the thing that I'm really excited about. What I love doing with the Lumix is, on pretty much any camera, you can choose to focus on a single point, and then you can use the joysticks or some control on the back of the camera to move that focus point around. On the Lumix cameras, you can use the entire touch screen as a trackpad of sorts. So you are looking through the viewfinder with your thumb on the darkened screen, because you're looking through the viewfinder so the screen is dark, and use that as a trackpad to move that focus point around. And I can move that around and follow my subject much more quickly than the camera will try and figure out what it is I'm focusing on, and always get the focus point exactly where I want it. And then the actual focus happens with a half press like normal, because I've already put the focus point where I want it. So I half press and off it goes, and it's just nails it all the time. You have to get used to it like this. You got
it's like a trackpad in a way in the back of the camera.
Exactly what it is. It is a trackpad on the back of the camera that you can control with your thumb. The kind of the biggest thing to get used to is not letting your nose hit the glass.
Right.
It is like a trackpad. If you touch it with two fingers, you can pinch and zoom. Basically, you can spread your focus point larger or smaller by pinching in and out on the back. And so if your nose touches it and you move your finger across it, it sees that as a spread, so your focus size may change. It just takes a little getting used to. Don't let your nose hit it. But once you get used to not letting your nose hit it, you have that power to move that focus point around. It's incredible.
That's pretty cool. Now, the Sonys don't have that. Unfortunately, the Sonys don't have a touchscreen on the back, which is a big... a big sort of source of contention for a lot of people. I don't necessarily miss the having a touchscreen on the back, but what the Sonys do have is something similar to that, which is a track mode. And it's remarkably good how well it works. You can tell it, I can tell it to focus on Frederick, for example, and if Frederick moves around the frame, the camera will automatically track it, no matter where he is on the frame. Yep. Even if he turns, it's pretty amazing how good it does about that. So it does have an automatic tracking, but does not have that tracking mechanism you're talking about, even that trackpad on the back, sounds pretty cool.
It is really cool. So back up for a second. Sonys don't have touch screens?
They do not. They do not.
Don't get me started. I'm trying to hold my tongue.
You're making fun of Canon for being
They don't. I mean, honestly, I don't miss it. I would not, even if I had a touchscreen,
because you never.
I would turn mine off.
I used to make that same argument, Juan, in high school about.
You know why?
The same argument about, like, I'm not dating the cutest girl in high school. It doesn't matter, I don't miss it. I've never had it.
No.
Yeah, I got to give you crap here, Juan. I got to call this, because if iPhones came out, all touchscreen, touch keyboard, that's the stupidest thing in the world. Who needs that? As soon as you start using it, there's no going back.
Hey, I've used Panasonic and I've used Olympus, and I cannot stand the touchscreen in the back. Part of the reason is, again, because of my left eye dominance. It is very hard for me not to touch the back of the screen. My face is covering the entire back of the camera. And if that touchscreen is active at all, I'm going to be touching it with my face because of my left eye dominance. So,
yeah, sure, but as soon as you pick it up to unless you have the trackpad thing I was talking about turned on, as soon as you pick it up to your eye, the controls are going to switch to the EVF, the electronic viewfinder, and not the back touchpad, and you can touch it all you want. It's not going to do anything.
Well, yeah, I guess if you do have that feature, but then you wouldn't be able to use what you talked about, right?
Well, that's one feature about touch.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't miss it, you know. Maybe like you said, because I don't know it, but no, I don't miss it.
Don't
But I
ever.
will tell you, Andy, my co-host on the podcast, that's like, as a matter of fact, I think on today's episode, he had as a wish of the week again for like the 20th time out of 25 episodes.
I have to agree with him. I mean, it's hard to not shoot with a camera that doesn't have a touchscreen on it for me now. You know, just like both of my primary cameras have articulated LCDs on them, which is hard for me to shoot with a camera that like at least doing like deep level work, not just point and shoot stuff. It's hard for me not to have that. So I need an articulated LCD, and it has to be touch. It's in order for me to feel comfortable these days.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely one area the Sonys are falling back on. But you know what? At the same time, I'm glad that they don't have a touchscreen, because if we had to deal with a touchscreen and the mess of a menu the Sonys have, we'd be in real trouble.
Yeah. Oh, good grief! Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listeners, I hope that was a good question for Stuart Stephen. Other listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to tackle on the show, just click on the Contact Us link at the top of the of any page on TWiP and select TWiP Main Show to submit your question to us. Or if you have a question that you want to ask Joseph for TWiP Apps or Juan for Alpha Mirrorless, just select their show, type your question, hit submit, and the little secret is it pops up on their phone instantly.
Yes,
so be nice.
It actually pops up on my iPhone. It just
on your watch, yeah.
On my watch, yeah. Sorry, did I say iPhone? Said Apple Watch. Sorry.
Yeah, that thing.
So you just gave all TWiP listeners direct access to our.
To all the hosts. Yes.
No.
Direct pipeline to the host. So, But no, with great power comes great responsibility. If they abuse that power, turning that page off is a click away.
That's right.
And I'll do it.
That's true.
Just ask the TWiP forums that no longer exist.
Oof.
All right, yeah, we know that story.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump into the Picks of the Week segment real quick. Remember, you guys can recommend anything to the TWiP listeners as long as it's related to photography somehow. Wampons, what's your Pick of the Week?
My Pick of the Week is this. I don't know if you guys see it. This is the this is the Really Right Stuff Pocket Pod Ultra. It's a tiny, tiny little tripod that I use. I carry it in my bag. It's got a nice little dovetail clamp on top, and I use this as a secondary tripod when I'm shooting, for example, time lapses or anything that requires for my camera to be nice and steady, but I don't necessarily need height, and it's nice and compact. I love this little tripod, and it's got adjustable legs with a couple of different heights that you can use.
Yeah.
And again, just like anything from Really Right Stuff is on the pricey side, but it is absolutely top notch. I feel like this thing would hold my weight if I stood on it. It's so well built.
It's like that. You could take it to outer space, huh?
Almost, absolutely. So yeah, I just keep this in my bag, and it's there for me to use at any time that I need a tripod. Even if I'm not carrying my regular tripod, this is something I can use by putting it on a table, or even holding it against the wall to have a nice secure location and have a steady camera. But I typically use it when I'm shooting kind of more impromptu time lapses, and I don't want to set up my regular tripod and have it used, be busy for a couple hours while that time lapse is being shot. This is kind of like a really small, lightweight second tripod that I can always have with me.
And that tripod head looks like, is that Arca Swiss on there?
Yeah, it's an Arca Swiss on it, and and it's a full articulated head on the top. So, it's really small and tiny.
That's cool.
And it just tightens with a lever on it, and that's it.
Nice. And how long have you had that thing?
I've had it for a little while, and it's incredibly useful. This is in the new version of their tripod. They used to have one that didn't have these little settings or detents on the legs. They were held by these rubber grips at the bottom. This new one has a couple little detents on it, so that you can actually set it at different angles. So much more useful than the original. This is the Pocket Pod Ultra, and the Ultra is what makes those little settings on the legs.
Yeah. Yeah, and that thing looks like it will last forever, and that's the thing
Yes.
about this kind of gear. You can people are probably thinking, well, $221, I could go to wherever and buy something for about $200 less than that, but it's going to last that amount of time. That
That's
thing,
right.
that's probably, I would argue, unless you lose it or abuse it, that's probably the last time you'll buy a tripod like that. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had small tripods. I've had many small tripods because I love shooting time lapses,
Hmm.
and having a small tripod with you is great. But I've never had one this small, this well built. Some of the other ones that I've had, some of the, like the Gorilla Pods, right? Everybody's had Gorilla
Yeah.
Pods at one time or another. I've had so many of those that they've gone, into Gorilla Pod heaven a couple of times, and so this I know this is the last little tripod like this I will ever have to buy.
Yeah, there you go. Sometimes you have to learn. It's like
Yeah.
buying furniture or buying stuff from IKEA, right?
Right. you can buy it 20 times and spend more money, or you can buy it once and spend less money.
Exactly. That's great. Perfect. Cool, Juan. Thanks for that. That's a perfect pick of the week. And Joseph Linaschke, man, what is your pick of the week?
I got like a whole bunch because it's been a long time since I've been here. But at some point, you can tell me to shut up.
Bring it on, man. Bring it on.
First one I've got to promote is my own workshop. This is in Oaxaca, Mexico, in January of next year. We have just started selling tickets, so just the other day. So this is brand new, so there still are plenty of seats left. Hardly anybody knows about it yet. But if you go to photojoseph.com/workshops, you can learn all about it. It's January 14th to 22nd in Oaxaca, Mexico, and this is a cultural tourism / photography workshop. It's going to be beautiful and incredible and a whole lot of fun. And
that's cool. I love the cultural tourism spin. That's what Ralph Velasco and I. That's the spin that we put on these Vietnam workshops. It's
awesome.
It's kind of we don't even like the word workshop because work, it sounds like work, right? These are cultural experiences that you have guided photography instruction along, for the ride, but it's about experiencing the location, the food, the people, making new friends on the trip, and with a lot of photography smattered in there. So that sounds very similar to that.
Good.
Cool.
Very good.
And
that's
very cool.
Sorry? Yeah, really looking forward to this. It's going to be fun. That's if you're watching the webpage now, that's my partner in crime, Eric Mindling. He spends half of his year every year down in Oaxaca. That's where he lives half the year, and he's been down there doing that for 30 years, I think, and he's the one who's going to be leading the cultural part of this tour. So super excited about that.
Very cool.
My next one, very small, something I call Photo Joseph's Photo Moment. So every week morning, every working day morning at 9:30 a.m., I go live on Facebook at facebook.com/photojoseph for something I call a photo moment. Sometimes they are literally moments, just a couple of minutes long, and I'll talk about anything photography related. It might have to do with a workshop. It might have to do with a job that I'm doing, talking about some of the gear I'm using or what we're doing for the shoot. Might be talking about packing gear or talking about a new piece of gear that I bought or talking about some software or some new idea, answering user questions. Could be any number of things. And so we do these every day at 9:30. They're free. They're live on Facebook, and I encourage you to please check those out. It's a lot of fun.
That is cool. And you're at PhotoJoseph on Facebook, right?
That's right, PhotoJoseph. Yeah, facebook.com/PhotoJoseph takes you to that page.
Perfect.
And then the last one is tied into these live broadcasts, and that is the hardware that I use for that. And so I'm going to, for those on camera, I'll pull this into view, but this thing is made by a company called Teradek. It is the VDU Pro, and this is a device that allows me to take any HDMI signal and push it live streaming to any number of destinations, including Facebook Live. And so I will, when I'm in this room right here, where for those of you that are watching or seeing me, I'm in my recording studio. This is coming out of my big switching system, feeds into that. But then I can just take my GH4 or any camera with an HDMI cable on it and plug it into this and go live from there. It's really slick. It's a little finicky sometimes. It's not a flawless product. It does have its moments, but when it works, it works. I mean, it usually works. It just sometimes takes a little second start before it really does what it's supposed to. But
so is this thing the Holy Grail? Because I know you've been on this quest. You've been like Frodo on a quest for the ring.
No, I really have been. It's the best thing that I've found, and I know you can spend a lot more money. This is $1,000. You can spend a lot more than that. You can spend a lot less. And I've used a lot of different software solutions, and you get all kinds of sync issues, you get interrupted stream issues. This is the only thing I've worked with that is rock solid, with the caveat that it's rock solid once you actually get it going. And if you don't, like, I use it for the most part out of my studio. It's hardwired into the Ethernet. I just hit go and it goes, and it always goes when I do that. But if there's a problem, like let's say it'll record the stream to an SD card internally. Once I had it where I hadn't realized the card was almost full, and so it gave an error that the card was full. Okay, well forget it. Don't record to the card. It said it was streaming and it wasn't. So I did a whole show where I thought it was streaming and it wasn't. So it does weird little glitches like that. But as long as everything goes right, it works. It absolutely works. You can also use it. You can connect to Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or you can use your phone as a hotspot. And so you can be anywhere with cell phone service and use this to stream live to whatever streaming service you're using.
That's really cool. It's $1,000. So could you? So you basically you pump a camera input into it, and it gives you what out? Like Thunderbolt or what?
Well, no, it's streaming to that point. So
but what's the connection into your computer? So
HDMI. No, this is the computer. There is no computer.
Oh, okay. So you're going straight from this to Facebook. It's not going through your computer to Facebook. It's going from this to Facebook.
This to Facebook.
Oh. What?
Yep.
That's ridiculous. How come I didn't know about this thing? Thank you for beta testing.
Because you want $1,000 on a stupid streaming device. That's why.
That is really cool. I had no idea. Very cool. All right, and that's its job. That's its only job is to stream to Facebook, Wowza, Livestream, Ustream, YouTube, or Twitch. It looks like, right?
Yep. And then there's a custom. So when I'm doing my PhotoApps.expert live trainings, I'm streaming to my site directly, and that's through my own, not my own, but it's through a what do you call it? A content providers. What's the word? CDN. That's through a CDN that I pay monthly fee to, and it's completely faceless. It's just a CDN, and I embed that on my site. So you can put your custom settings into this. You don't have to use one of their preset platforms. So you can
stream just so I'm clear. So no computer involved. You can configure this thing to stream to your Facebook channel.
Yep.
So you go on Facebook, you say, "Hey, I'm about to stream live, guys. Come check me out." You crank this thing up, plug your GH4 or whatever camera into it, and say start. You press the red stop button, and you're online. You're basically this is your television network. You're streaming to the world from your awesome mirrorless Micro Four Thirds camera.
You got it.
Along with audio. So where's the audio go?
Well, it's coming over the HDMI.
Oh, it's coming through.
It actually has an analog audio input as well, but to keep things in sync, it's usually better to go through the camera. So you'd hook up your microphone to the camera and then do camera HDMI out, and that's going to bring it in. So then you know it's in sync.
Brilliant, I tell you, and it records to its internal memory, so you can take the high quality and edit it and replace the stream file later if you want to, right?
Right. Well, okay. So yes, in theory.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Can you record with this?
Yeah, you can. So you can either use the internal SD or use an SD card. It's got a slot for that, or it also has a USB port. You can plug in a thumb drive and record to that. So you can do either one. It will record at whatever quality you've set it to stream at. So if you're telling it to only stream in SD, that's all it's going to record. If you're telling it to stream in HD, that's what it's going to record. So that's fine. So if you're streaming at the highest quality possible, you get a full 1080p. It's like 6 megabit or something signal, which is pretty darn good. I mean, that's for most stuff, that's plenty good. As far as the replacing it goes, though, Facebook does not allow you to replace a live stream file. So you can't do a live stream and then replace it with a higher quality one later. And unfortunately, this is entirely Facebook's thing. This has nothing to do with the VDU. Facebook, as of beginning of this month, I think, beginning of August, I believe, they started dumbing down all live streams down to SD. They were at 720p, and now they're at 640 or even less. It's awful. I don't know why they've done this. It's really, really annoying. And there's no option. It's not like I can pay to stream in HD, which I would gladly do. As a professional, I would gladly pay to stream in HD. Because I do pay, when I'm using my other CDN, I do pay. I'm fine with that. Yeah. But there's no option. It's Facebook. You get what they offer, and that's it.
But as far as the device only recording whatever, like in this case, sub 720, you can just record directly to the camera, right? So if you're shooting with your GH4, you can just record 4K or 1080 or whatever to the card inside the camera, and also have it outputting to this device, which is going to record the down-res version, and then you can make your decision on how to post-process later, right?
Exactly, and that is usually what I do. I don't record straight into the camera. I've got other recording devices in here, but that is usually what I'll do. So the stream will pass. Let's say I'm doing it in the field. The stream will pass from the camera into the Ninja Assassin, and then from the Ninja to the VDU. And the Ninja will capture it at full HD or 4K, whatever I want, and then the VDU will stream out the HD.
Love it. Love it. Cool. Spending my money, man. Spending my money. But thanks, Canary in the coal mine. I appreciate that.
Hey, come spend a weekend up here, buddy. You'll.
Oh, I know, man. I know.
You'll empty his bank account.
Totally. All right. I have a couple picks of the week as well before we wrap up the show. I think I've been mentioning on the show that I'm going to be heading to Out of New York, the Out of New York conference, coming up October 14th to 20th through 15th this year, 2016. This is put on by the same folks that put out the Out of Chicago conference. Chris Smith and his amazing team are putting this thing on, and I'm leading a bunch of workshops there and some photo walks and drinks and all kinds of crazy stuff. So come hang out with myself, and who else is going to be there, Wampons?
Well, I'm going to be there. Our friend Rick Salmon's going to be there. There's a bunch of really cool people, and you and I are doing something together. I'm in a panel that you're going to do on gear and equipment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to do a panel on gear and equipment, and we're also doing something different this year. You may not know about this yet, Wampons.
Oh, what's that?
So I am going to, let me stop the screen share. Chris and I were talking about ways to make things even better for people that may not know how to shoot and where to shoot in New York City. So we're going to do the opening session as a kind of TWiP-style interview with native New York speakers, like Lindsay Adler, Rick Salmon. Those folks will be on the panel.
Cool.
People that are from New York. I'm going to put them on the hot seat, and they're going to give us the do's and don'ts for shooting in New York, where to go, where not to go, how to act, which street vendors to avoid,
Don't have the red hot dogs.
Yeah, if your burger or your hot dog has whiskers in it, don't eat it. So stuff like that.
Cool.
It's gonna be a good time. So that's coming up, and also I'm heading to Vietnam, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Heading to Vietnam again. I'm taking a group of 12 people out there. I think we're departing on the 26th, I believe, 26th or 27th of November for 12 days. We're gonna be out there hanging out. And Joseph Linaski, guess who's going?
Who's going?
Tom Curley is on the list.
Oh, I did hear that. That's awesome. That's
Tom Curley, our friend Tom Curley's going. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Lots of cool people are gonna go hang out, and like I said, this much like your tour to Mexico, Joseph. This is more of a cultural experience around several cities in Vietnam. So we're gonna be bouncing from city to city on planes. We're on buses. We're floating around, on boats in the middle of. It's a James Bond type adventure that we're going on.
You're not taking any trains, are you?
I don't think we're taking trains, but I am bringing a drone. So
stay off the trains in Vietnam, man. Those are scary.
Yeah, I haven't been on a train in Vietnam. But check this out. You want to talk about scary? Have you seen the scooter situation in Vietnam?
Of course.
I've ridden a scooter in that. I was one of the.
My God.
I was one of the blood vessels in that blood flow.
That's cool.
And I lived to talk about it. And I did it with a passenger on the scooter. I was riding, and I had a passenger on the back. So. Yeah, so
when they're holding a carton of goods, that's the thing. You gotta make sure they're holding like 20 pounds of stuff, on the side.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Yeah,
a family of 6 until you're doing that.
Right, that's who. Yeah.
A family of 6, an ox, several pounds of goods and a computer and all that stuff. Yeah, on a little tiny scooter. Yeah, that was one of the things that shocked me the most when I went to Vietnam last year was the scooter situation. It's just. It's almost indescribable how many scooters are on the road at any given time there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Cool, guys. All right. We are at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. We will put your links in the notes so people can find your workshops, your pages, Joseph's photo moments feed, that's low resolution, all that stuff. We will that Joseph paid $1,000 for Mark Zuckerberg
for 320
down sample
320p streaming connection.
Exactly.
Poor Joseph.
Got
Joseph, you're future proofed. You're future proofed. You're good. Don't worry. As soon as he upset Rez, you're gonna be there. Don't worry about it. All right, guys. And TWiP listeners, be sure to visit our TWiP school. It's at twipschool.com. You can check out the website if you're not there right now at thisweekinphoto.com. You can subscribe to our other shows. Two of our hosts are on this episode. Mr. Juan Pons, who is a co-host on the amazing Alpha Mirrorless show, which is crushing it. Juan, I know you got your stats yesterday. You must be dancing on the ceiling.
Yeah, things are good, doing good. So we're happy.
Things are looking up. Joseph Linaski as well with TWiP apps, crushing the appverse, right?
Yeah, it's been fun, man. It's been a fun podcast to do.
Yeah, it is awesome, and you do it well. You've got the Starship Enterprise over there. J.J. Abrams Enterprise. Let's put it that way.
J.J. Abrams.
I love it.
All right, guys, and also listeners, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., and like, comment, and subscribe accordingly. And with that, it is time to take that lens cap off.